A summit between Presidents Moon and Trump in April. It's on the cards as a senior South Korean official is reportedly set to leave for Washington soon. Two F-35A stealth fighters will be delivered to South Korea's Air Force in the coming hours. They're the first of 40 that will help protect the nation by the year 2021. Plus, a rather grim peek into South Korea's future, plagued by a chronically low birth rate. The nation's population is expected to start declining in around 10 years from now. South Korea will be the world's most attractive market for investment if North Korea gives up its nuclear arsenal. That's President Moon Jae-in's assessment, who also stressed on Thursday that such a move by the regime would open up infinite possibilities for a peaceful Korean peninsula. Shin Se-min starts us off.
An attractive market to invest in. President Moon Jae-in, in front of officials from foreign invested firms, highlighted how the country is an attractive and stable environment for investment. In his first meeting with foreign investors since taking office, the president said Korea will become even more attractive to investors when Pyongyang gives up its desire for nuclear power.
특히 한반도 평화 경제는 세계에서 가장 매력적인 시장이 될 것입니다. 평화 경제의 무한한 가능성에 주목해 주시기 바랍니다.
He added that soon after the inter-Korean summits last year, the geopolitical risks surrounding the country dwindled significantly. A reflection of that, credit ratings agency S&P has kept Korea's sovereign credit rating at AA, the highest rating in Korea's history. The South Korean leader acknowledged the importance of foreign investment to the Korean economy, adding that foreign firms make up nearly 20% of the country's exports and 7% of all jobs. Foreign direct investment promised to Korea hit a record high of $26.9 billion last year, up over 17% on year, despite global foreign investment dropping 19% as the global economy slows. The president also mentioned how Korea had strong economic foundations and that its exports pierced through $600 billion mark last year, becoming the world's sixth largest exporter. He also promised to upgrade support for foreign investors, saying Korea's economic development will open up more business opportunities for foreign investors. In building an economy of peace, the president sees it as imperative to bring more foreign investment into Asia's fourth largest economy and expand prosperity across Northeast Asia, the ASEAN nations, and even to Eurasia. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
Now we have some breaking news coming in from the top office. We are learning that the senior secretary to President Moon for public relations is giving a briefing at this hour. For what we know is it is about the next South Korea-US summit. Let's go live to our correspondent Shin Se-min for the latest. So Se-min, what do we know thus far?
Mark, we have a confirmed summit schedule for the leaders of South Korea and the U.S. Presidents Moon Jae-in and Donald Trump will be sitting down for their seventh summit meeting in April next month. Their seventh, as I've said, meeting in total. Now, it'll be a two-day stay for President Moon Jae-in without having to stay overnight in the capital of Washington. That means it'll be a brief stay for South Korean leader, meaning it'll be a business-focused trip for the President Moon, and that business-focused trip is most likely about the post-Hanoi talks that had been in the talks for a long time since the second North Korea-U.S. summit. Now, there had been a lot of talks about whether President Moon Jae-in will be holding his next meeting with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, or will it be a meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump. But today we have a confirmed schedule that he will be speaking with his U.S. counterparts to help break some impasse in the talks of the denuclearization, where the Hanoi summit ended with no concrete result. We just heard from the senior public relations secretary to President that President Moon Jae-in and the First Lady had been requested and had been invited by the leaders of U.S. for a visit to Washington for a brief stay from April 11th till the 12th. And we know that is going to be likely about the President Moon doing his mediator role, playing his mediator role in helping to break the impasse of the denuclearization talks. And this had been somewhat foreseen because we had seen that Presidents Moon and Trump had gone on a phone conversation shortly after Hanoi summit in February, where President Trump left without a concrete result with a summit meeting with the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. And that phone conversation that the two leaders had shortly after the Hanoi summit, we know that President Trump had promised the South Korean leader that he will be hoping to meet with each other face-to-face for the upcoming breakthrough on the denuclearization talks. And if the April summit does take place, and as we know that it would be the leaders' first encounter since their meeting in Argentina on the sidelines of the G20 summit in November. And a lot of questions we have at this point will be what's on table for the leaders between Presidents Moon and Trump during their summit next month, and hopefully that will be about making some progress on the North Korea denuclearization talks. That's all for now. Mark?
Okay, Semin, thank you very much. So confirmation then that Presidents Moon and Trump will be meeting on either the 11th or 12th of April. Those are the 2 days that President Moon and the First Lady will be in the United States. So confirmation there, just a couple of weeks to wait for that. Now, 2 F-35A stealth fighter jets arrive at Cheongju Air Base this afternoon from the United States, giving South Korea's Air Force the capability of evading radar detection. The jets will likely be assigned to combat units starting in April or May. Following a 2014 contract, South Korea plans to deploy all of the 40 F-35A jets ordered by the year 2021. The South Korean military is scheduled to have 10 jets delivered by the end of this year. The F-35As will play a key role in South Korea's envisioned kill chain preemptive strike system. South Korea's industrial output dropped 1.9% in February, mainly due to lower production in the automobile and services sectors, according to data released by Statistics Korea on Friday. This is the sharpest on-month decline in almost 6 years. Retail sales fell 0.5% from a month earlier as a result of a drop in sales of food and beverages and lower auto sales. Facility investment, that also fell quite a bit, in fact, 10.4%, as investment in machinery and transport equipment decreased. Now, plagued by a chronically low birth rate and a sharp decline in the number of people tying the knot, South Korea's population is expected to drop in the near future. A new report shows the downward trend may begin in 2029, in just 10 years from now, and that's 3 years earlier than its previous forecast. Go Ryun-hee reports.
When will South Korea's population start to fall? That's been the big question since at least the 1980s, when data started showing a low birth rate. On Thursday, Statistics Korea released a population projection for the 50 years between 2017 and 2067 that says it'll likely start in 2029. In 2028, the population is set to peak at around 51.9 million and start to decrease the year after. These projections were based on analysis of data including births, deaths, and international migration. And they assume a scenario of moderate growth, meaning that total fertility, life expectancy, and international migration were all in a medium range. The decline starting in 2029 is 3 years sooner than projected in the last report in 2016. And this is mainly due to fewer women having babies. An expert in the field pointed to various reasons why young people aren't starting families.
To survive in a highly competitive society, many young Koreans get private education or go to the so-called good universities. But even if you do that, there's still the problem of unemployment. Also, there are many couples who both work, but whose jobs don't provide enough support like parental leave.
The report also pointed out Korea's rapidly aging society. The population of seniors 65 or older is projected to rise from last year's 7.4 million to around 18.3 million. To turn around this demographic slide, the government announced the same day that it will create a task force next month and come up with a policy response. 고르니, Arirang News.
Early voting has kicked off for the April 3rd by-elections. Up for grabs are the districts of Changwon, Songsan and Tongyeong-gosong. Voters will be able to visit polling stations for the next 2 days between the hours of 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. The by-elections will serve as a litmus test towards the parties in Gyeongsang-Namdo province ahead of next year's general elections. A poll back in mid-March showed the main opposition Liberty Korea Party and the minor Progressive Justice Party were neck and neck for the Changwon Songsan district, but the Justice Party may get a bit of a boost as it decided to file a single candidacy with the ruling Democratic Party. The same poll showed the Liberty Korea Party candidate had a comfortable lead in the other constituency. Now, the man known as the Korean Monster is back with an impressive new record. LA Dodgers pitcher Ryu Hyun-jin becomes the first South Korean pitcher to win on the opening day of the Major League Baseball season since Park Chan-ho did the same 18 years ago. Ryu took to the mound against the Arizona Diamondbacks on Thursday, giving up just 1 run in 6 innings and getting 8 strikeouts to help the Dodgers win 12-5 in their opening game. The 31-year-old is hoping to have a healthy season this year after missing 3 months of the 2018 season with a groin injury. OK, let's start our international news segment with Brexit, where we have been starting for many days now and probably will do for quite a while. The British government has confirmed that the House of Commons will vote on British Prime Minister Theresa May's deal for a 3rd time on Friday local time, so Saturday here in Korea. For more on this and other stories from around the world, let's turn to our Hong-yu. Hong-yu, fill us in on what's happening, what's the latest in the Brexit situation?
Well, Mark, March 29th was the original date set as the day the UK would leave the EU. But for now, it will be the day that UK lawmakers put Theresa May's Brexit deal with the European Union to a vote for the 3rd time. If May's deal is approved, the UK will exit the bloc on May 22nd, but the Parliament will have to work on the domestic ratification requirements. If the withdrawal agreement does not pass this week, the UK will have to participate in European Parliament elections as a condition of an extension beyond April 12th. On Wednesday, May told MPs she would step down as Prime Minister if they backed her deal. May's announcement came after her advisors urged her resignation as the only way to get enough votes to pass the deal, as many Conservatives have been frustrated with her leadership and say a new leader is needed to lead the next phase of talks with Brussels. But the 3rd vote on the divorce deal has a low possibility from being approved, as May will have to change the minds of 75 MPs. The debate at the House of Commons will begin on Friday 9:20 a.m. local time, and the voting will proceed at 2:30 p.m. local time. A massive fire struck a high-rise office building in Bangladesh's capital on Thursday, killing at least 19 people and injuring scores more. Officials say more than 100 people had to be rescued from the 22-floor building using helicopters and ladders, as firefighters continue to search for bodies on every floor. The fire department is faced with difficulties in the operation due to many high-rise buildings close to each other and the narrow streets. The blaze in Dhaka's commercial district is the latest in a city where subpar building regulations and safety norms have made deadly infernos common. A video filmed during Pope Francis' day trip to Loreto, Italy on Monday that shows the Pope pulling back his hand during a parade of Catholics seeking to kiss his ring has gone viral, and the Vatican has stepped in to respond to the video. He said the Pope was concerned about hygiene after greeting dozens of people and pulled his hand away to discourage people from kissing his ring. The act of kissing the Pope's ring is a Catholic tradition, symbolizing respect for the office, causing many to criticize the Pope for disrespecting the tradition. Francis says his motivation was only to avoid the risk of spreading germs. Dardo Campestrini, an Argentinian biker on a real-road adventure to the southern tip of South America, is traveling with his dog and best friend, Pocho. Pocho travels on a special seat behind Campestrini wearing goggles. The goggles are to protect Pocho from the wind, because being exposed to wind for a long time could affect his eyes. The two have traveled together for more than a year now and have passed through Punta Arenas, Chile on the Magellan Strait, and they will head to Chile's Austral Highway and thousands more kilometers before heading home.
It is time now for our Life and Info segment where we focus on the information that's useful for your everyday life, whether you are in Korea or somewhere else around the world. Today, we're going to focus on the Seoul Motor Show. It has just opened its doors to the public at the top of the hour, in fact, around 20 minutes ago, ahead of the 10-day event. Arirang News was very lucky to get a preview at the Media Day event. And at that event for us was our Oh Soo-young, and you're going to fill us in on how we can get the most out of this event that only rolls into town once every 2 years. Can you tell us what are some of the main highlights we should be looking out for this year?
Well, motor shows are all about bright lights and flashy displays, and there was plenty of that at the Seoul Motor Show this year, so you won't be disappointed, Mark. Out of the 30 new models on display, 7 are making a global premiere, while 10 will be revealed for the first time in Asia. And some of the most eye-catching models were Kia's Mohave masterpiece and the Imagine concept car. Among the foreign brands, Land Rover unveiled its new Range Rover Velar SVA Dynamic for the first time in the world in Seoul Silver, as they were calling it, while Tesla is showcasing its cars in Korea for the first time ever. But what's really stealing the show, Mark, is Hyundai Motor's 8th generation Sonata. The turbo and hybrid versions are being unveiled for the first time at the exhibition, showcasing some radical changes to the model's design. And many industry experts have simply marveled at the sleek angles of the car and the invisible chrome-like lights that dramatically come to life. And I must say, those were pretty spectacular. Not only that, but the new Sonata also has state-of-the-art features, including an AI voice assistant developed by local firm Kakao, as well as personalized infotainment and solar panels integrated into the roof for the hybrid version. Also, the latest Sonata is partially self-driving with lane-following assist technology, which can detect traffic lanes and the actions of the vehicles ahead.
Right, well, I'm just watching the video while you're speaking there, Soo-young. Perhaps I shouldn't say which one I like the best on live TV. Not that my wife would let me buy such a nice car anyway. Right. But it's clear that the Sonata, it did have this kind of old-fashioned image before. It's trying to shed that, though, of being no longer a sensible family man, standard sedan with all these dramatic changes that are going on design-wise, etc., and interior-wise, it sounds pretty technologically advanced as well. It seems to be working, though, right?
Yeah, I definitely think so. The new Sonata has clearly lived up to expectations after a 5-year wait, and the gasoline model was actually launched earlier this month, and pre-orders, Mark, they hit over 12,000 in less than 5 days, and that's actually double the number of Sonatas sold on average in a month. And with the recent regulations lifted, allowing Korean consumers to actually buy LPG cars, the Sonata's LPG version is actually set to become one of the very popular models.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it is. And for our domestic viewers, they're going to be very interested to know, because with the fine dust being the way it is, there's a big focus now on LPG cars. People are now permitted to purchase them or to modify their cars to make them LPG. Just breaking down the different ways, because you can get a Sonata in LPG, I believe, but would it actually be cheaper to run, is what I'm saying, between a gasoline and an LPG model?
Right, well, the prices really speak for themselves. The LPG version of the Sonata costs around $2,000 less than the standard gasoline version. But of course, that's the initial costs. The real question here is how much it would cost you down the line. So looking at some calculations here, based on the average distance travelled by mid-sized sedans over a 10-year period, a gasoline version of the new Sonata would set you back around $36,000. Meanwhile, an LPG model would cost you $5,000 less.
So can you just break that down into layman's terms, if you wouldn't mind, put it into a more of an everyday context we can understand?
Right. Well, let's say you were driving 400 kilometers from Seoul to Busan, for instance. You'd pay about $9 less for fuel with an LPG engine. So while we're on the topic, another LPG vehicle worth considering is the Renault Samsung's SM6, which costs around $6,000 less than the gasoline version. So a pretty big save there. So going eco-friendly might be worth considering after all, although there is, of course, still skepticism about the relatively lower fuel efficiency, as well as the question of being able to maintain your vehicle as LPG gas stations aren't as readily available.
Right. Well, a lot of the taxis in Seoul run on LPG, and I believe the supply is quite tight, so we'll just have to see how well they're going to take off. There wasn't then, is what you're saying, a wide range of LPG vehicles at the show, but manufacturers are focusing a lot these days on hybrid and 100% electric vehicles, not to mention now we really are getting into futuristic territory, completely driverless cars where you just get in the vehicle and it takes you to your destination.
Right, we can't forget the driverless technology.
Yeah.
In fact, that's really what the theme of the Seoul Motor Show was all about. The theme was sustainable connected mobility, which really emphasizes these latest driving technology, especially those that run on the 5G wireless network. And I spoke to the head organizer of the Seoul Motor Show this year, Mr. Chung Man-gi. Let's listen to what he had to say.
There have been various new models, electric and hybrid, launching recently, so we have premieres scheduled. But going beyond that, we're displaying models with cutting-edge software, parts, and technology.
You can actually experience the future by taking a ride in a fully automated driverless car, which is also making a global debut.
You can start the car with your voice or a gesture and lean back to enjoy the ride. Our fully driverless vehicle is optimized for the passenger, featuring 6 seats and the ability to host infotainment content.
Well, maybe I'm a purist, but I like the idea of driving my own car, but perhaps that won't be an option in 10 or 15 years' time. I won't be able to buy something like that. But it does sound like quite the experience indeed, particularly if you get the chance to try it out yourself at the Seoul Motor Show. So let's talk about the timetable for this then. 10-day run, so it's going to run from today all the way through till next weekend.
Right, so until April 7th. So you've still got some time to go there. It's being held at the Kintex Exhibition Centre, which is about an hour's drive north of the capital. A little less than that, actually, if you manage to go there on a weekday. It's definitely worth checking out, whether you're a big fan of cars or just looking for a fun way to spend the weekend. And the tickets cost 10,000 won or less than $9. It's less than that if you're a student or a local, so do take advantage of those prices. And it's a biannual event, of course, so do try and go. Otherwise, you'll have to wait 2 years.
Another 2 years.
Right.
Well, I think you got lucky, really, because going on press day is by far more appealing than going on regular days, because it does get extremely busy. My tip, as someone who's gone a couple of times before, would be to avoid the weekends.
Definitely.
And perhaps go early on a weekday if you can, so you can get a decent view of all the cars and the glitz and glamour and all the fashion models that are there. And I might have to borrow your press pass if you still have it, Soo-young. But thank you very much for your report today.
Thank you for having me, Mark.
Good morning. Unlike yesterday's stuffy and dusty air, we're breathing better air today, but due to the stagnant airflow, we could have relatively high levels of fine dust at certain points of the day. And temperature-wise, we'll notice a brief spring cold snap this weekend again, with morning lows dropping down to the chillier side, and stronger winds tomorrow afternoon could make it feel colder, so be sure to dress warmly. And as for today's daily highs, they will range between 13 and 19 degrees Celsius in most parts of the country. Now, spring flower festivals are kicking off this weekend across much of the country, but dress accordingly, as there will be wide temperature differences. So temperatures will remain below norms until early next week, so beware of the temperature roller coaster. That's Korea for you, and here's the international weather for viewers around the world.
Well, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for now. Do stay tuned to Arirang TV, and a reminder that our next newscast is coming up at noon Korea time. If we don't see you, have a wonderful weekend. Until next time, goodbye.